Welcome back to another session. I hope you were well. Now, I was just speaking about the concept of choosing a new identity based on a new self image. I'd like to build on that in today's short session. If, if you accept the premise that I have been trying to offer, that we've been endowed with incredible gifts, gifts that place us in a position uh, that is almost synonymous with immortality, gifts that allow us to transcend our circumstances, to overcome the most difficult experiences, gifts that allow us to go through this adventure of life with grace and poise. If you believe all of that, then I hope you're asking the simple question: what are these gifts? Where can I find them? And how can I use them? I started this series because I understood that for so many people, especially in the West, we have seen an increase in mental health issues. It's become commonplace over the past 20 years. There is a reason for that. I don't want to describe some of the opinions I may have or speculate, but suffice it to say that people are suffering. And the key question I had in mind was, how can I reduce, in whatever manner I can, the suffering? If one person suffers, it's one too many. And therefore, the hope with this sessions is that perhaps there's some knowledge and some information that can be used to reduce your suffering. But even more importantly, to enable you achieve a goal, wherever that goal might be: health, success, wealth, money, prosperity, fulfillment, or even peace. These principles work because they are principles. They're not exclusive to a particular way of life. And so the same principles can be applied to any area of your life. But in today's session and in this series, we're dealing with depression, anxiety, worry, concern, and the likes. And in the session prior, I made reference to the importance of changing your self-image. Let me build on that by starting today's session as follows. You will never, I will never, we as individuals will never perform in a manner that is vastly different to our self-identity, which we hold consciously or unconsciously in our subconscious. We cannot outperform our self-image or self-identity and deviate from that image for a huge period of time or in a huge amount in terms of dispersion. We have something in each and every one of us that regulates our outcomes. So if there is an outcome you're getting in your life, it indicates the self-image you have of yourself. You do not go to work on the outcome. You do not go to work on the results or the environment. You work simply on yourself, on that image you have. In other words, you change the picture you have of yourself within your subconscious mind. It's easy to do, or rather it's simple to do, but not easy. And when done, it's difficult to maintain because it requires work. Take it from me, we are always under attack. We're under attack not because there is something malicious or people malicious out there. It's just the way of the world. So sometimes the attack comes from ideas that create fear in you, that create worry and doubt and concern. Sometimes it comes from what we hear. It comes from our families. It comes from what was done to us, our histories. Doesn't matter where it comes from. The kingdom of God suffereth violence, and the violent shall take it by force. And so if you want to transcend this position you might find yourself, you have to recognize that you will have to do battle with your enemies. And the enemy is the one within, not the one without. The enemy is within. Now, Pogo said, we have seen the enemy and they are us. There is nothing on the outside of you that can do you more harm than what is on the inside of you. So most suffering for most people, especially people who suffer from depression and anxiety and worry and concern and mental health issues, most, now recognize, when I say most, for something to be most on the average, it simply means it must be greater than 50.1. I haven't said all. That would require 100%. For most people, it's within. It's self-inflicted, not intentionally, sometimes by errors of omission and other times by errors of commission. But it doesn't matter how the error comes about. The key question is, how do I transcend this place I find myself and give myself peace? It begins with redefining who you want to be, writing down what those goals should be, and describing yourself in the future as you wish to be, and capturing that in words. Write it down. As soon as you write it down, it's converted to a thought, an idea, image in your mind. And then you simply repeat and replay that image. You keep it front and center in your mind, and you focus on only that idea. You do not talk about who you used to be and who people said you were. You focus on who you can become. You focus on who you wish to be, and you repeat it with emotion. You go into your mind's eye and imagine yourself in a cinema and have a screen playing of you, the you in the future. You're happy, you're healthy, you're mentally resilient, you're not anxious, you have a life that is full of abundance. You're accelerating in life because you have, and you're creating. You replay that emotion. You replay the picture with the right emotion. Emotion of happiness and peace and gladness and playfulness. And the more you reinforce and replay such emotions in your subconscious or in your imagination, you are displacing an old idea in your mind about who you are, and you're replacing it with something new. It requires work. It requires intention, and it requires perseverance. You do that often enough, you do it daily, you do it regularly, and what you find is that someday, in the words of Henry David Thoreau, and he said that if you advance confidently in the direction of your dreams and endeavor to live the life that you have imagined, that one day, someday, you will meet with success, unexpected, in uncommon hours. Someday, you will look at yourself and say, I am living that life that I dreamt of 5, 6, 10, 15 years ago. The reason being, you're focused. In other words, you almost have to get to a point where you tell yourself a true lie. Don't worry about the appearance. Choose an image of who you want to be in the future and play that image and replay that image and replay that image and connect emotionally with that image and see that image of yourself only with no exclusions. Someday you will find that you've been dead or that you die to your old self mentally and you're reborn with a new image mentally, and your body will follow your mind because your body is a slave to your subconscious mind. The key thing is understanding how, like a seed put on the ground or in the soil, at the early stages, you need to nurture the soil, you need to protect the soil, and you want to wait carefully until the day of harvest. And as the soil or the plant grows from the soil, it gets to a point where it's resilient and therefore it can survive the elements. But for most people, we're still like a little sapling, and therefore we haven't developed, or we do not have the protection around us, and therefore when the rain comes, and the wind and the tides, or the elements, we find actually beats the crop into the ground. You have to recognize that once you've created the image, that is when the work begins. Protecting, looking after the soil, and ensuring that there are no foreign intruders who come to do harm to your harvest. So, you're struggling with depression, you were struggling with mental health issues. Just see that see that in the past. Turn the script. At any day, at any point in your life, you can turn a script. You can turn a page in your life and say, I'm done with that life. I've paid the price. I choose a different pathway. I do not want to pay again for the past. Think about that. Whatever you've done, you've paid a price for. You have been suffering. Life has not been fun, but you've paid a price. You do not have to keep on paying the price every day. Turn a page. Just turn a page. And never feel ashamed to let go. And if you can turn the page and simply say to yourself, and speaking to yourself, I need help. Don't look for help from without, despite it being important. The help must come from within first, because otherwise, the help from without is limited by the absence of desire within you. The help must come from within, and that requires a burning desire, almost a magnificent obsession about being the better version of yourself. And once you've decided that you want to be the best version that you can be, then help can come from without. But it must start from within, and it starts with you. In the sessions that follow, I'm going to talk about your thoughts. I'm going to go into more detail about the mind. I'm going to go into the power of belief. I'm going to go into other parts of how to understand the psychological aspect of depression. At some point, I will deal with the whole issue about emotional and mental resilience. Think about your muscles. If you don't use your muscles, it atrophies. In the same manner, if you don't use your mental muscles, it atrophies. So a lot of the suffering we see in life, we forget that this is all part of the adventure of life. It hasn't come to kill you, it's come to make you stronger. But because you do not have muscles, you feel weak. It means you can't do the heavy lifting. It's not mental health, it's just an absence of emotional resilience, emotional stamina, emotional reserves. The same way we have bank accounts and we have a reserve. When difficult time comes, we go to our savings. Most people do not have emotional savings, mental savings, and therefore they live from paycheck to paycheck in the mental plane. So there is no mental reserves. And whenever there is a difficult period, you lose a loved one, you fail an exam, you hear things that are perhaps daunting, you hear about war, and pestilence, you feel as though the world is coming to an end. Why? There is no reserve. And so as part of the process as we move forward, I will be trying to share with you how you can start to build some reserve. You want reserves for the difficult times because they will come. Difficult moments are yet to come. The question is, are you ready? And are you prepared? Now I'm going to stop in today's session here, and in the sessions to follow, we'll go into more detail as to how to build a resilient self-identity, on how to be a resilient person psychologically, mentally, and intellectually. It's a difficult world we have. It's not what it used to be. We're not as connected to our communities as we used to be. We don't have Big Mama and Big Papa like we used to have. And therefore, for the young people, you're going to have to become your own father, your uncle, your aunt, your Big Mama, and yourself. But even more importantly, you would have to become a mentor to those who are behind you. And think about this carefully. If you're suffering from any form of mental health issues, I hate to say this, but there is a sense of solipsism. You're focused too much on yourself. And I'll be stunned by how much, you will be stunned by how much you can transcend your present circumstances if you just focused towards other people and how you can serve and be helpful and solve their problems, even people particularly who are suffering in a manner like yourself. It's like give, and it shall be given back to you, in good measures, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing. If you want to transcend your mental health depression issue, you find someone to help. I'll talk about that in the sessions to follow, but recognize that you are not alone. There is an intelligence around you. There is an intelligence within you. There is an intelligence beside you. It goes with you. The energy flows through you, around you, under you, but it works with you. But it cannot work with you except you work with it. And in order for it to work with you, it requires responsibility. Now, I hope today's session has been useful.